Now time for our topic of the week, and we haven't let Lee leave the sofa because we still feel like there is so much to talk about.
Do you want to leave?
No, we kept you here. After the last episode and talking about the sin bin rule, we found that the opinion was really, really divided. This time we opened it up to you guys to tell us what you wanted to talk about, and the focus was on what challenges there are for the grassroots community, and more importantly, what are the most important right now.
It was, and there were lots of things brought up. There were some common themes: access to decent pitches during bad weather, fundraising, finding sponsors. But the two that really stood out were adult player recruitment and volunteer recruitment. So, as we normally do, we ran a poll on those two to find out what you find more difficult. And the results were as follows, as we probably would have expected. Volunteer recruitment, 76% of the votes, and adult player recruitment, 24%. Charlotte, what do you think of these two?
I don't know about you, Lee, but I am not surprised that when we put this question out about the challenges for the grassroots football community, recruitment came up so much, particularly the volunteers, I must say. I feel like there is a bit of a challenge, isn't there, around youth into adult, but I think it's really
the age-old problem, isn't it?
Yeah, like how do you get people engaged with your football club? Because, you know, it's the most basics of things, like opening up your ground on a Saturday, or like, you know, picking up the litter and all these little things we take for granted, but they're having a real impact for teams across the country.
Yeah, and I think this is a trend that we see nationally as well, in terms of how can we get more volunteers in and how we can get adult players. And generally it comes down to the modern world's moved on, and not many people have time now to give up and volunteer. So we've got to be realistic, especially with volunteer recruitment, be realistic about what we're asking of them. How long is it going to take? What are the rewards and benefits? And almost use it as a sales pitch. If we can turn around to volunteers and go, actually, realistically, it's going to take you 2 hours a week or 3 hours a week, then I think you'll get more of the people, that volunteers, that are going to stay around.
Yeah, sticking around from the outset, I think it's getting them on board, isn't it? And selling it to them, like you say.
And that sense of empowerment that we were talking about earlier, about content marketing and getting volunteers to help build your club that way, that's really...
Keeps coming back to social media, doesn't it? And the modern method.
Well, it does, because recruitment is such a key thing, and not only for volunteers, but adult players. And I know there were loads of different themes coming up, like we say, from teams literally across the UK.
There certainly were. I mean, if we take a look at some of the sort of standout comments, we start with the first one. Football is becoming more and more expensive. And the comment we had was, getting players isn't hard. It's getting players to pay up, which is the hard part. Even Sunday League football is now becoming expensive. And they put that down to pitch costs, player insurance, which is probably a relatively new one to the game, cost of training venues, kit and equipment. They were talking sort of signing on fees of £180 a year plus. That's a lot of money, isn't it, for your average Sunday League player? Yeah,
definitely. Is it something that you see, that you come across in the grassroots game a lot?
Yeah, I think expense is always key to whatever we do. We want to see value in while we're putting a hand in a pocket and paying for something. And the challenge is with adult football is going out on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday morning. Are you getting value for money? Is the pitch okay? What's the referee like? What's the opposition? Did you enjoy it? Because I think people will pay for a good experience, but money's tight at the moment. People have got other interests in their life, so it's about making sure that football experience that they have on a Saturday or Sunday is a good one, that they're willing to put their hand in their pocket for.
And I guess with football as well, we know it's such a powerful vehicle for society as a whole, and sometimes the people that miss out are the ones that literally don't have that extra investment to put into a football club as well. So it's kind of a bit of a vicious cycle in that sense.
It comes back to sponsorship, doesn't it, as well? The more sponsors you can get in, the better. And obviously, you know, not everyone can do that. It's not the easiest task in the world.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, rising costs, I think it's always going to be a challenge you face. The next one with adult player recruitment was teenagers losing interest, which I've definitely come across, playing well into my 30s now. And the comment we had was, teenagers just aren't interested these days. As we grow older, the average ages of our league grows with us. The team I play in has an average age of approximately 30 to 35 years old, and we only have 4 players under 30.
So I think that's a real big challenge, isn't it? Like when we look at the future of grassroots football and we talk about the importance of getting younger people interested into volunteering, because, you know, if we look at the age demographic of our volunteers, they're the older generations, and it seems that that's infiltrating into players, and particularly like a drop-off around school and university, and it seems a pretty common...
going out.
Yeah, well, like you were saying, like going out on a Saturday night, are you going to wake up and play football on the Sunday? Is there anything that we can advise clubs on how to prevent that drop off at that age?
Well, I think it's a national trend again. The 14 to 16 age group it does start to drop off. We've got a massive boom nationally of youth football, so there is the players there. There's not one silver bullet that's going to solve this. There's players that have started playing at 5 years old and they get to 16 and it's just, actually I've done my bit in football. My football journey comes to an end. I think what adult clubs need to recognise is, how can you create an environment that is welcoming to young people? If they're just going to come in and it's 16-year-old or 17-year-old and they're going to walk from a FA Charter Standard club with a qualified coach, kit, first aid, training on a 3G, to then going into an environment where it might be lots of banter, a drinking culture.
Can be quite intimidating, can't it?
Yeah,
it was. Coming in at 18.
And it is, and that's why people are going through. I think elements like rotation of substitutes in terms of roll on, roll off throughout is really key, because at the moment we seem to have a 16, 17-year-old and it's a case of, unless they're coming in and going to be one of the best 11, actually can you just run the line? And if I'm 16, 17-year-olds and I'm getting up on a Sunday morning to run the line and I'm getting 5 minutes at the end of the game, the benefit of me playing goes down, and it's just easier for me to stay in bed and then go to the gym or swimming or anything in the afternoon, or just get on the Xbox and do whatever.
One thing I find when you talk to grassroots clubs as well is there's like a very, very strict line between the youth and the senior. And it's almost like actually some of the better clubs, the better practice, they have more of a unity and a fluidity. And I think it comes back to that point you were making from coaching. It's about building a culture, isn't it? Where
inclusive culture, isn't it? Where you're organising socials where everyone's involved and wants to be involved.
You want that player pathway to build. And I know you volunteer at Strikeforce that have a really good player pathway, and you're kind of bringing that young blood into the team. Is there anything that you as a football club, in terms of best practice, can advise that's helped you create that culture?
I think most recently with our first team is we've got the average age, I believe, of one game was 23. So there's lots of young players in there, and I think it was just by coincidence was the current under 18 manager is the assistant manager for the senior side. So I think that helped with that transition of players. I always think with senior football, the challenge is you go from youth football, which is equal opportunity, everyone gets a run out, gets changed positions. It's all about fun and engagement. And then maybe the higher you go up the pyramid, it's about actually we need 3 points.
Yeah, especially when money becomes involved, and some teams and some people that are watching this, they'll be paying their players as well. So you have that kind of level of finance involved in it. Yeah,
and I think that's the challenge. Is what are the motivations for a first team manager to put in a 16, 17-year-old? Is it a risk, or is it part of that culture where actually we understand where you are in your journey? You're not going to walk in and understand what senior football looks like. It's going to be a massive challenge. You're going to come up with problems that you're going to have to solve on the pitch. You're going to have to come up with bigger, stronger, faster players maybe. And it's about, actually, we're going to give you the time to actually have a go. We know you're going to fall on your backside now and again, but we're here to pick you up.
Yeah. The third theme, I am not surprised by it at all. Poor facilities putting people off, the lack of decent pitches, not having a nice changing room.
That's it. The comment was, not having a nice changing room or showers or decent pitches, meaning players would rather stay home and play FIFA.
I think it's a massive thing, and I know again with your role within the Kent FA, facilities is probably on the top of every club secretary's.
I think it's definitely come a long way in recent years, hasn't it? With the
I think so. And there's a big focus now. We done our own research in Kent, which follows national trend, which was pitches and facilities affect the love of the game, and if players lose the love of the game, then we lose them forever. They don't generally come back into it. Most recently, the Football Foundation is going to invest over £200 million, which is going to go into 75% of that is actually going to go into on the field. So grass pitches and 3Gs, because we recognise that if you've not got a decent pitch and you've not got somewhere to train, it's going to affect everything you do, and your love for the game is going to be effective. We have invested heavily into changing rooms, and we're now looking at and going, is that the best use of our resources? Do they have to be all singing, all dancing changing rooms, or do they have to be enough for people to actually turn up, get changed, a locker room where they can put staff, hot showers, etc., to turn up? When it is a massive factor when you turn up at changing rooms and not very nice, and it affects you. You're looking at it and you're thinking, before you've even kicked off, you're thinking, actually, I need to get out of here. So there is a massive focus. In terms of the FA, the grass pitch improvement programme, in Kent, we're aiming to improve over 200 pitches over the next 2 years. So that's going to have a real effect on the game, and hopefully it's going to improve experiences.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really interesting, even reverting back to our last episode when we spoke to Scott, who's a groundsman, and that importance of investing in your pitch, taking a bit of time, some best practice to help
keeping
improve.
games on, especially this time of year. You know, we're now in December. You miss lots of games, players lose fitness, some start to lose interest. It's more games you can keep on, the more players you keep interested. So I mean, moving on to volunteer recruitment, I know obviously this was the stronger one in the poll everyone was really struggling with, and the comments were pretty much all the same. It was just getting volunteers through the door is difficult.
It's almost like it needs a bit of a change of image, really, volunteering. I think sometimes there's a perception of giving away your time for free is something that's not right and just, and particularly with internships, wasn't there was a lot of profile about how bad they are, but actually volunteering can give you some really good experience. It can boost your own CV in terms of different skills, and there's so many benefits. I guess it's just a case of communicating them and offering a real sense of recognition and reward for what you can get when you volunteer at your local football club.
Yeah, I think sometimes in the grassroots game, if you're running a club, it's almost you expect people just to stand up and step forward. I think it's very British culture to not do anything until you're asked. Yeah. I think we need to, if we're running a club, if you're a senior club official, it's about looking through the parents' lens or the supporters' lens and going, actually, what would get them from there to actually being a volunteer in the club, and highlighting the benefits that Charlotte's talked about are really key. Like young people, it's the CV embellishments on a young person's CV is huge, but it's also them hidden skills, such as discipline in terms of turning up on time, making sure your kit's ready, the way you communicate with adults, the way you communicate with parents and players, all the way through to just developing your confidence. And if you can do that as a young person, then when you go into a job interview, you've got loads of examples. I always say that at 16, 17, if you're leaving school, you're probably leaving with millions of other people that have got the same grades as you. Yeah. When you stand up or you put your CV in or go to an interview, actually, what's the difference? And I think if I'm running a grassroots club, I need to sell them benefits. Actually, we will help you with your employment. We will help you get on in life, not just you helping us. Yeah.
I think there's probably loads of people watching, and it's something that, again, I've seen throughout the grassroots game, where it is that one individual or maybe a handful that carry a whole football club. So I guess kind of designating roles that suit people where their skill base is, best suited as well, like diversifying the number of volunteers you have will ultimately help you be a bit more sustainable in the future.
Yeah, okay. And I think that kind of wraps this one up, doesn't it, really, definitely. For the moment. I mean, it's certainly given us plenty to think about. There are plenty of issues to look at there, and we'll be looking to bring in guests over the coming months that can help with recruitment, certainly. On that note, don't forget to leave comments down below if it's something you really struggle with, or you can tweet us, #AskMyClubPro. We really want to hear from you, not just on this topic, but any topics you'd like us to talk about in these episodes.
There really is plenty for us to think about, and don't forget to share with us the challenges that you face, the opportunities that you have found at your football club throughout this season. We're going to be exploring lots and lots of different topics, bringing you lots of different expertise to help your football club and the grassroots game that we all love so much to grow and flourish.
That's right, and probably we got time for on this episode of that Grassroots Ramble. It feels like we've had a good old ramble today.
We have.
Lee, thanks for joining us for the end topic there. We've certainly enjoyed it. I hope you have too. If you have, give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Until next time.
See you later.
If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a ramble.